So I'm here in Walkinstown. This is my family home, where the studio is. So before this, there used to be a boat here, and my dad was into boats, building boats. So he used to. So it was like a boat yard really. It went out a bit further into the garden, and this is where we're all. Yeah, this is our family home. We've always lived here. But there was boats in here, and then I was into cars when I was young and go-karts. So I had even when I was about 15, 14, I had go-karts here. And because out here there's a back lane, and there's a big power station out here, huge power station. It was like a racetrack. So even music I was always into music, but I was always big into cars and bits of go-karts and things like that when I was a kid. So that was it was a good fun growing up around here. Well, I started at a young age playing flute. Like 7 or like 6 or 7, start playing the flute, and it was just kind of natural because we're up in the house. We had, like any house, a front room, with the record player, and we had a piano, and I just picked it up, and I was kind of naturally into it. I didn't really have to be taught that much about it, and I think it was just purely from being around the environment, listening to music. My dad was a player. When I practiced, there was no Jamie Aebersold records really. That came a bit later. So the only way really, I heard Joe Henderson on an interview the other day talking about just playing along with records, and nobody does that really anymore. And I think that's a big thing that's lost now. I think the importance of playing with a record, I think it's subliminal that the who you're playing to, say if you're playing a Coltrane record or Rollins or whoever it is, or Jarrett or whatever, it's, even though you're playing along with it, it's definitely going into your ear. You know what I mean? You're hearing it, maybe not thinking of it so much, but you're definitely absorbing it quicker than playing with a play along. One big influence on me outside the jazz was at the time there was a lot of blues bands in Dublin. The blues bands were really important because I had to come up in that and not play jazz, because if you were playing too much jazz, they weren't into it at all. But it was great for feel and your timing and playing proper blues, And I think that was a good grounding for funk music or for my jazz, for timing, for working on timing. If I was listening to Brecker or listening to guys like that, or Rollins, I was really focused in on my timing to get the timing right, So that was a big part of my practice routine, And then of course, I did do the 4 or 5 hours a day kind of thing as much as I could. I didn't transcribe much really. I did some transcription. I was a bit slow at that, but it was, for me, mainly it was playing around with the records. I thought it was probably I developed more from that, that way. So I built this studio about 17, 18 years ago, maybe a little bit more. And because I was always moving house, and I actually live out just the back road here. But because we were moving house quite a bit, we wanted to have somewhere where we could build a studio and not worry about moving house. So this has been great because I work here a lot. You can practice here, but we really use here for recording mainly, as you can see. So I kind of invested over the years in many toys and different vintage mics and vintage desk and stuff like that. So it was a process, The studio started out more as just something where I was maybe mixing or editing stuff or working on brass. Really, that was, I was doing horn section stuff for people. So, it's perfect for my needs. It's not a big commercial studio, but it's perfect for, it's very cozy, and it works really well in a setting where you have to use headphones. If you want to use headphones, I have it set up really well for playing jazz for that reason. Because most times you go into a studio and your headphones are the biggest problem trying to interact with other musicians, because you're all playing live. Many recordings have been done here over the years, from a lot of the Irish jazz albums in the last few years. We've had Dave Liebman here, did a trio album for him. We've had yeah, Georgie Fame in on organ with Nigel Mooney's album, and we've loads of different pop crowds as well. Pop music and R&B, and hip hop. So it's been really diverse, but a lot of jazz stuff. Just maybe before the pandemic, I had the idea. So became a pandemic project, but I didn't mean it to be. I've done a couple of albums before. I did a trio album. My first album was a trio album, The Pendulum, with Darren Beckett, and that it was, I was probably 25, 26 or something like that. Then I did The Tourist with Edward Simon, piano player Stephen Keogh, Jeremy Brown. I did an album then. Third album was one of more of a groove album, more of a. And my wife was singing on that, Margot, and I had a big horn section. And I just felt over the years I hadn't done another jazz album. I played on loads of jazz albums from. Like with Colin Steele. I did a lot of time in Scotland with Colin's band, and I did a lot in Spain with Stephen Keogh, and I did different recordings with them, with P. King and Julian Arguelles. There was many different groups throughout Europe over the years that I played in. What happened was I got together with Greg Felton, as you know, and Greg is great. I love working with Greg because he's very patient and he's great sense of harmony. I've no patience, so everything's kind of, a muddle sometimes. So it was for me to sit down and write music like that. It kind of puts me in a strange place. I'm not, I can do it, but sometimes it's not the best music. So what we did. We decided, Greg came over and this was the start of the pandemic then, and we got together, just the two of us, and we ran some improv, just played improv. And then I had some tunes written that I was kind of half working on, and I knew I'd do a bit of cut and paste with them, so I was just wanted to play things through with Greg. A few of the tunes were kind of, if you call them, instant compositions. So how it came about was I was playing piano. I'd always write on piano. I never really write with the saxophone. I always find it too complicated, or it's just you're kind of writing to be complicated. So I always like writing at the piano because it's more melodic, and I love harmony. So strange harmony or whatever. And that's the way I kind of write. And it was probably the best way for me to put music down. But as I say, the first tune was something I just played for, say, 3 minutes. And Greg recorded on his phone, and when we got together next time, he had it as a chart, which I wouldn't have done, because I wouldn't have the patience to sit down. I would have thought, I know I can do something better. And then you mightn't have the confidence in it. So, but when we played it, I went, okay, I'm not going to analyse it, I'm not going to think about it, we just do it. Rather than, because I'm really looking for tunes that are going to facilitate a blowing section, because that's what you want to do. You don't want to just play a written piece of music. So really you're looking for a vessel so you can solo. With Barry Donoghue on bass and Shane on drums. So that came later. The rhythm section really came later. When we got together with the four of us, then it really took off, So I had enough material then, 8, 9, 10 tracks. I think we got down to 8 or something in the end. But it was a great experience. And then one of the great things was when we decided to record, we recorded for a week. Because we recorded here, we weren't on a budget. So it was great to just say, right, we'll all record, we'll take a week out and record. So we're on the 27th of February. We're going to do a launch there for the album. So it's through Eventbrite. So Arters, go to Arters' website. They'll have all the info. And the record is brought out on Livia Records, which is interesting. Dermot's been fantastic in Livia Records, because this is the first contemporary album really of Livia. Livia has done the last couple of years has been reissuing, like remastered, which I remastered here, Louis' albums, and there's a Jim Doherty album, and there's many of the old catalogue of music. So this is the first new contemporary album that Livia will be doing. So it's exciting, it's good. It's great to have a record company in Ireland back that, you know, that has a bit of a history and is here and now and modern. So it's really great. So fair play to Dermot, doing a great job. I did a lot with the Mingus Band, the Mingus Big Band. That came about, I can't remember how long ago, but I remember getting a call. It was through Conrad Herwig, and they were stuck for an alto player, flute player, which mainly I'm a tenor player, but I play Barry and play alto as well. But they were stuck for an alto player and a flute player for a tour it was in a week in Ronnie's, and there was one gig here and a gig somewhere else. I can't remember, Leeds or something. So I went over. The Ronnie's gigs were first. I remember I was, that's probably about 22 years ago maybe. So I went over, and yeah, that was kind of daunting, because you're just kind of last minute call, and you're walking into. It was an amazing band. It was Seamus Blake. It was Dave Kokoski. It was Boris Kozlov. All the guys. Jim Rotundi. There were great. Just so many great players. It was Ronnie Cooper on baritone. Julius Shaw, I think, at the time, and that was a great experience. And then I did many tours with them after that. I did every time they came to Europe, if they needed a sub or, whatever it was. We did a tour, John Abercrombie. Remember, that was fantastic. So a lot of guitar players. I played with Rosenwinkel here, a couple with Kurt Rosenwinkel. I did my own tour with Kurt. And then last few years he came back over. We did a couple of things with Leo and them. A lot, piano players over the years. Edward Simon was a great one, really great working with Edward. He was such a warm guy and such a great composer. Played some of his tunes, played some of my tunes. I spent a lot of time in Barcelona with Stephen Keogh when I was, maybe in my kind of mid-30s. Did a lot of, that was kind of cut my teeth in that scene quite a bit over there. There was a jamboree club on Plaza Real. I played there quite a lot. Last year was great to play. Got to play with Jerry Bergonzi, which I'll be doing this year again in March, up in Linley's Margie's Farm, and then in Limerick, as far as I know. I'm not sure if there's somewhere else. But playing like with another saxophone player is amazing, especially Jerry Bergonzi. My dad was a huge fan of Jerry Bergonzi. We used to have old tapes of him, Bergonzi playing with, I think the first tapes we ever had was playing with Dave Brubeck. And he always stood out, Bergonzi always stood out as, an unbelievable saxophone player. I toured with Dave Liebman, with Connor and Ronan and Mike. So they were great experience to play with saxophone players of such, note. It really, you have to be on your game. So it was that they were great experiences, yeah. The Irish scene has been great, really. It's been up and down at times as well because of the changes in a club. We always had JJ Smiths, and Brian was a great friend of mine, and JJ's was always so great because, a bit like artists too, you could put a project together and you can go in and you were always supported. Brian would help you with posters and doing, so it took a lot of the stress off of you for a gig. JJ's was a big loss in the jazz scene here for sure. But then artists kind of picked that up. The one thing but it happens in New York too with clubs, and England as well. Clubs open and they're doing well and they just close for whatever reason, landlord issues or they sell the pub for something else or whatever it is, or venue. So that's the hardest thing of any scene, is the clubs keep on opening. Regan's, you have Arthur's, and you have the jam session. You've got the jam sessions on the Mondays. They're great to go to. Anybody who goes to a city should go to the jam sessions. It's always a great experience, and to see the young people playing. Gigs like O'Regan's is great because there's a great vibe in it, and when I'm playing there, you can, because it's more relaxed. You can reach for different things. You can you can go for different things that you normally wouldn't, because you got the Cooler now. I think they're going to do more regular gigs in the Cooler. There's IMC. Definitely Maggie's Farm is one. I think what Linley's done up in the farm is incredible, really great. And then Limerick, we have John Daly, So it'd be good to just get more around the country. We were missing we had a bit of, Matthew Barrell did run something for a while in Galway, but I think he was finding it hard to get funding. And so it'd be great to get more funding for Galway, Sligo, things like that, where we could have more, just when we put a tour together, that there's more venues to play. Maybe a bit more trio playing. That would be something for later on in the year, but obviously now we're going to be touring the band a bit, the EBB and FLOW band, and there's always something coming in. I mean, there's meant to be another Mingus tour, maybe something in Ronnie's, but again, even talking to them, a lot of the big band stuff is very hard to put on financially now. Flights have gone so crazy, and hotels and stuff like that, so that's why they do a lot of smaller band stuff now. But there's always something to be doing. I'm always working with Ronan and a few of the guys, but there'll be plenty, I'm sure.
Whether you like it or not.
Whether I like it or not, yeah, exactly, yeah.